Hello students, I hope all of you are keeping safe and healthy back home. And today it's a wonderful opportunity that I take to present to you the very first lesson of CBSE Class 10, A Letter to God, which has been written by G.L. Fuentes, who is a Mexican novelist. Now let me give you a brief of this lesson, A Letter to God. This is a lesson about an innocent farmer who strongly believes in God. His faith is so strong that he believes anything can be done by God. In any trouble, in any crisis, if you ask God for help, He is surely going to answer his prayers. So let us see what happens in the story. Why does this innocent farmer believe that God is going to help him, and does God really help him in his time of trouble? So let us get into the lesson. But before we get into the lesson, let me give you a brief about the author. Okay, so here is the author. You can see the picture here, G.L. Fuentes, and his complete name is Gregorio Lopez. L is not given here, but Gregorio Lopez Fuentes. And he was born on Lanzarote in the Canary Island in 1897, which was the first mate of the pillar. Now, if you want to know where is Canary Island, you can Google and see in the maps. That'll be more helpful for you, or you can see in your atlas as well. Anybody who's really keen to know where exactly these places are. Okay. He was married to Dolores Perez in 1920. Now let us know a bit more about his life, what exactly he did. He worked as a fisherman in the boat, which belongs to the Ernest Hemingway, an American writer. Now, at the age of 10, he would go along with his father as a deck boy. Deck boy, I hope all of there's a deck on the ship, on top. So that's a deck. So he worked as a deck boy to do the petty works and worked on those cargo ships. Now, these are not the cruise ships, they are the cargo. Cargo means where you get to carry only the goods, like how we call goods train in India. So cargo is something like cargo, like goods, where only goods items are carried on. Okay. So to and fro to Canary, and to and fro means up and down. Okay, for your understanding. Now he was credited as a model for Hemingway's finest novel, The Old Man and the Sea, and this novel was published in 1952. What this novel is about and is about a loyal man who goes out too far in search of his prey and pays a good price. Now, that is what this novel is, which gave him a lot of recognition. Now, Fuentes died at the age of 104 in the year 2002 and due to cancer. So, it was not a natural death. He died because of an illness, that is cancer. And sadly, he never read the novel which he had written, that is The Old Man and the Sea, was never read by him. So all his good works, which we get to read today or learn today, I think we need to acknowledge the creativity of such wonderful authors. Now let us get into the lesson. Now, a letter to God. As you can see, he is the innocent farmer here. Now, here I've given Lencho. How do you pronounce this? Any guesses, any of you? Well, English is a very funny language. So let me tell you, they are pronounced in 2, 3 ways. So if you go into Spanish or German or British or American, so Lencho is pronounced as lencho in American or Spanish or Italian. Whereas in British English, we pronounce it as lenko. Okay, lenko. You can repeat after me. Lenko. So his name is Lenko and he was a farmer. Now you can see a sad face here, which almost gives us a hint that something went wrong. And you can see the fields here behind him. So let us see what happens. Okay, so let us start off with the first paragraph. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn dotted with the flowers that always promised a good harvest. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour, or at least a shower. Throughout the morning, Lenko, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. Now we are really going to get some rain, woman. The woman who was preparing supper replied, yes, God willing. The older boys were working in the field, while the smaller ones were playing near the house, until the woman called to them all, come for dinner. It was during the meal that, just as Lenko had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. The air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. And when he returned, he exclaimed, these aren't raindrops falling from the sky. They are new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are fives. So let me get into the explanation as I have finished reading it for you. Now the house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. Well, for you to have a look of how exactly a house looks in the crest of a low hill, so as you can see, these are the hills, and this is the house in the crest of a low hill. Now from this height, he could see the river. So there was a river flowing and the field of ripe corn dotted with flowers that always promised a good harvest. So what we can make out here is his corn harvest was almost ready and he was just waiting for rain which could give him a real good crop. So I've given you an image here of the cornfield. So he was just waiting for a wonderful, wonderful rain which can give me a good harvest. So as he was looking out and as he was just praying for a downpour or a little shower. Now what is a downpour and what is a shower? I hope you all know what is the difference, but I would just give you a brief on this. Downpour is nice, good rain, and a shower is where you have very little rainfall, okay? Throughout the morning, Lenko, who knew his fields intimately, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So as he was waiting for a rainfall or for rains so that he can have his harvest, he was looking towards the sky on the northeast direction. And he was speaking to his wife. As you can see here, he's telling his wife, now we are really going to get some water, woman. So as he looked in the sky and he felt that it's going to rain, so he shares it with his wife, telling her, I think we are going to get some water. Here water is rain, okay? The woman who was preparing supper replied, yes, God willing. So the wife replied, yes, God willing. God willing, if God wills, or if God wants, he will surely give us rain. So that's what it means here. In short, God willing. So I think you get to know few terminologies or the short ways of answering. You don't have to speak elaborate sentences sometimes. So these God willing is really a short, sentence where you can use. So whenever you read through a lesson, what you should understand is the form of text formats or the sentence formations and implement in your speaking skills as well, because any language can be developed only when you learn and start speaking also. Okay, so now let's get back again. The older boys were working in the field. So what were the kids doing? So probably he had the children who were a bit older and younger as well. So the older ones were working in the field and the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman, that is the mother, called all of them for dinner. Now it was during the meal that, just as Lenko had predicted, so as Lenko saw the sky and he thought it's gonna rain, so as they sat down to have dinner, he saw that there are huge mountains of clouds that could be seen approaching. So he was really excited, very happy, because as he predicted, they're nice big clouds. And as all of us know, if they're nice big clouds, especially the dark clouds, it's gonna rain. So the air was fresh and sweet. And all of you know, when the weather changes and it's going to rain, you get this nice fresh breeze. You know, it's nice. Most of the kids love to go out and, you know, they play in the breeze. It's really a very nice feeling. The man went out for no reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. When he returned, he exclaimed. So now, Lenko, what did he do? He went out just to feel the rain because, as we know, he was really waiting for rain because it could give him a good harvest, isn't it? So here he goes out, he just wants to feel the rain, and he comes back and again he shares with his wife. What does he say here? He says, "These aren't raindrops falling from the sky, they are new coins." So what does he mean here that raindrops are coins? As you and me know that this harvest is going to give him a real good yield, isn't it? And where he can earn real good money. So this rain is what he was waiting for to get a real good harvest, and a good harvest gives you good money. So that's the reason why he compares the raindrops as new coins. The big drops are 10 cents and the little ones are 5. So he says the big raindrops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5 cents. So that's how is his imagination and comparison, because he seems to be so excited that it's gonna rain and he's going to have a wonderful harvest. Okay, so as it gets ready to rain and Lenko gets excited comparing the raindrops to money. So let us move on to the next paragraph. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. "It's really getting bad now," exclaimed the man. "I hope it passes quickly." It did not pass quickly. For an hour the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. The field was white as if covered with salt. So now what happened? With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in a curtain of rain. So as it started to rain, Lenko was so happy to see that the entire ripe corn with its flowers was draped. Draped means covered in a curtain of rain. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. So for you to understand, these are hailstones, okay? So instead of rain, they get frozen. So we call them as, ice when it rains like this in our, local language, but they are called as hailstones, okay? That is when the raindrops get frozen and they form ice and fall to the ground. So they are hailstones. So very large hailstones began to fall. Now these truly did resemble new silver coins. Now, why did he say they did resemble? I mean, they're so huge and so white. So now they truly, literally resemble the silver coins. They were that big. The boys, exposing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. So children, as most of the kids get excited when such hailstones fall onto the earth, they went out to collect them. And they are here, the author is terming them as frozen pearls. As you can see in the picture as well, they look like pearls. So the boys went out to collect the frozen pearls. "It's really getting bad now," exclaimed the man. Now Lenko, who wanted rain, he didn't want any ice, isn't it? Nor he wanted any hailstone. So he didn't want it to snow. He actually wanted rain. But what was happening here? It was getting bad, and this hailstone which was coming down He was getting worried and he said, I hope not. It's going to come continuously. I hope it stops or it just passes off. But sadly, it does not pass quickly. And almost for an hour, the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. As you can see, I've given a picture here, how it looks here. The field was white as if covered with salt. So here you can see something like an imagination. So I've given you a picture how it looks when the hailstone, falls on the ground and all the crops, the valley, everything is covered. It looks like somebody has, just sprayed salt all over and all the crop getting destroyed. Okay. So now, not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lenko's soul was filled with sadness. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, a plague of locusts would have left more than this. The hail has left nothing. This year we will have no corn. That night was a sorrowful one. All our work for nothing. There's no one who can help us. We're all gonna hungry this year. Now, for your understanding, let me first show you this. These are locusts, and very recently and still happening. If you are watching the news every day, in Maharashtra and then in UP, the locusts have attacked the crops. And see, they look like a pile of some harvest actually, but they're all locusts, okay? They're insects. And they can ruin the crop. They eat away everything. See, this is a very closer image of a man holding locusts for you. You can Google up and see videos. There are many videos which were, viral, and you can have a look of that. Now let's get back into the lesson. So after the hailstone, what happened? There was nothing left on the trees, not in a single leaf, and the entire corn crop was destroyed, all the plants, flowers, everything gone, because as I told you earlier, it looked as though the entire valley was covered with salt. So you can imagine what would have happened. I mean, how badly it might have got destroyed. So Lenko's soul was filled with sadness. Obviously, any farmer who's just waiting for harvest, and just at that moment where he's waiting to harvest, if it gets destroyed for any reason whatsoever, you can just feel how disheartening it would be. So he was really, really sad. So when the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, a plague of locusts would have left more than this. So as I showed you, these are locusts, and he was telling to them, I think a plague is nothing but a big swarm, or where completely all these locusts would have just attacked, and they would, I think, left much more than this hailstone. The hail has left nothing. And then he says, see, this year we are not going to have any corn, nothing. And he was really sad. Sorrowful is nothing but very sad. So that night was a very sad night, because all the harvest which he was thinking would be in his hand, and he would earn a lot of money and they would be very happy. Everything was washed away in an hour due to the hailstone. So he was just thinking, all our work has gone for nothing. There's no one who can help us. We all are going to go hungry this year. And then, as he is in despair, not knowing what to do, let us see what happens. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope, help from God. Now here, solitary is single. As I told you earlier in the very beginning, in the crest of the low hill, this was the only family which was living there, and solitary means single, alone, okay? So in the hearts of all who lived in that house, that is, every member of the family believed that the only hope that we have is God. So don't be upset, even though this seems like a total loss. Remember, no one dies of hunger. That's what they say, no one dies of hunger. All through the night, Lenko thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Lenko was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. The following Sunday at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. God, he wrote, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes because the hailstorm. And he continued. Now, he wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, and still trouble went to town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. So, as you can see, this was the only family, and as all of them were very sad, but all of them had strong faith and hope that God is surely going to help them. So they tell each other, trying to convince and give hope and give courage to each other. So they say, don't be so upset. Maybe this looks like a complete loss, but remember, nobody dies of hunger. So as they pray and as they think, yeah, nobody dies of hunger, but they have the strong belief, including Lenko, is only hope is help of God. And he believes that God, whose eyes are always watching, who instructs people to be righteous in their ways, hardworking, God is never going to leave such people. So he sees that every person who is true within. I hope you all know what is conscience. Conscience is conscious, an inner soul feeling that is, every person might do something right or wrong. But after you do that, your inner feeling, which says that this is right or wrong, is nothing but the conscience. Okay, so deep within, the voice of the soul, he believes that God is going to help him. Selenko was an ox of a man. What do you mean by ox of a man? Ox of a man is nothing but a person who works really, really hard, which means a very hard-working person and never sits idle or is not lazy. He believes to work hard. So, Lenko was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. Most of the time we feel that farmers are illiterates or they don't really know to read and write, but here Lenko, who was a very hard-working farmer, did know how to read and write. The following Sunday, at daybreak is in the morning, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So what did he do on a Sunday morning? He began to write a letter and he decided he would take it personally to town and place it in the mail. And what was it? It was a letter to God. So he started writing the letter something like this. He wrote on top, God, if you don't help me, my family, and I will go hungry this year. So in the beginning itself, he started telling God, God, if you're not going to help me, my family and I are going to go hungry. We don't have any food to eat. So what he's saying, I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again. Now here something new for all of you is 100 pesos. What are pesos? We have heard of rupees, of dollars, of pounds, isn't it? So what are dollars and what is rupee? It's nothing but currency of a country, isn't it? Indian currency is called as rupees and American currency is called as dollars, UK currency is called as pounds. The same way, the Mexican currency is called as pesos. Okay, so I've given you an image of how pesos exactly look, an image of Mexico, something new, exciting. And anybody who wants to know more about Mexico, you can obviously go into a virtual tour and go into it. It's always nice to learn something new because I think the world has so much to learn that no matter we keep learning till our last day, we will still be left out to learn something more. So it's wonderful always to upgrade your knowledge and learn something new. Keep learning, children. So I get back to the lesson again. So what did he ask God? He said, God, I want 100 pesos in order to sow my field again. So again, he has to start off, isn't it? Poor thing. He lost all his harvest, no crop, nothing, in a total loss. So he said, God, please give me 100 pesos and I want to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes because of the hailstorm. So he continues now. He starts telling the trouble, the sad story, what happened. So he says, please give me and I have to survive because I thought the crop would be good, but the hailstorm has taken everything away. Now, after completing his letter, he puts it in an envelope and on top, whenever you post a letter, so on the envelope you write the address, isn't it? From and to address. So now he has written on the envelope, what has he written? To God, and no address, nothing. It's just to God. Obviously, none of us know the address to God. Do you know by any chance? Isn't it? It's funny. I know all of you might be smiling, but that is actually funny. And I think with this itself, you can understand how innocent Lenko was. Because if only we had address to God, I think there would be endless letters for God to read. Because we humans are always in need of something. So here with this paragraph, you can make out how innocent Lenko was, writing a letter to God and writing to God on the envelope itself shows how naive he was. Naive is nothing but innocent. Okay, that's a new word. You can see it in the dictionary as well. So, and then he went, he was still troubled, he was still worried. In spite of writing a letter to God, he was still very much worried. He went to town, put it in the, went to the post office. He placed a stamp on the letter. See this also, I mean, his innocence is like heights. He took a stamp and then he placed the stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox, assuming that it's going to reach God. I think by this, kids, I think all of you can really guess how innocent he was. Okay. So now here, you can see there are two images that I have given you. Here is one image of a postal office in US. And here I've just given two people reading, which can give you, imaginary character of postman and the employees over there, you know. Now let us get into the paragraph again. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. The postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, also broke out laughing. But almost immediately he turned serious and, tapping the letter on his desk, he commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter, starting up a correspondence with God." So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. Answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident to answer it he needed something more than goodwill, ink, and paper. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lenko, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. So now there's a twist in the story. Something good is happening to Lenko. So let us see. Now, as all of you know, once the letter or an envelope is put in the mailbox, it is taken by the postman and then they segregate as per addresses, and then that's how it reaches to various addresses or various people. So now one of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily. Heartily, you know, completely, loudly. And then this postman took this envelope and he was laughing, laughing completely. And he went to his boss and he showed him to the letter. And this letter was letter to God. And he was saying never in his career as a postman had he known that address. So he was laughing and laughing. He was like, all throughout my working, time period, I've never ever come across such a thing where a person writes a letter to God. I never come across this address to God. And the postmaster, a fat, amiable fellow, also broke out laughing. So obviously, when you see something which is not common, you can either laugh at it or you can really make it an embarrassing situation. So here, they were laughing, both of them. I mean, who on earth will ever write a letter to God? Because all of us know that we can't even speak to God. There is no communication. There are no phone numbers, no address, no train, no bus, no flights, no WhatsApp, no Facebook to God, isn't it? Or else we would be communicating till God, answers all our prayers. So they were laughing and laughing, and they were like, oh my God, who is this person who has written a letter to God? Who is so innocent in today's world? But almost immediately, what happened? Now, here, the postmaster, fat, amiable fellow, is amiable means a person who's good at heart, okay? So he was a real good person. He also broke out laughing. But again, immediately, what he did was he turned serious. He became serious, and then he said, tapping the letter. Tap is a small touch. So here, like this, I made the sound for you to know what tap is, on his desk, and commented, what faith! I wish I had the faith of this man who wrote this letter. So the postmaster was really impressed by this, and he said, oh my God, what a faith. And I wish even I too had such a faith like this man who has written the letter. So he said, okay, I mean, this man is starting up a correspondence with God. What is correspondence? Communicating. Okay, correspondence is nothing but communicating. So, in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. Answer the letter. So now the postmaster came up with an idea. What do we do? Because this man is so faithful. He so strongly believes in God, and I don't want him to be disheartened, to be dismayed, or to make him feel that there is no God or God is not going to answer. I don't want any negative feeling to creep into this faithful man. So let me do one thing. Let me answer the letter. So they open up, and as they opened and read the letter, it was evident. Evident means very clear. You get to know it very clearly that to answer this letter, it was not just goodwill or ink or paper. So now the postmaster understood that, okay, if I have to keep up the faith of this man, it's not just being good. Goodwill is nothing but having good words or good attitude, but it's not only ink, it's not just paper, it's not just words. What you understand is it's much more than words. You know what is needed, isn't it? What did Lenko write? He wanted 100 pesos, isn't it? So do you think the postmaster just writing a letter will solve? No, isn't it? What is needed? 100 pesos, money. Money is needed. So he himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. So now what did he do? The postmaster, since he already decided that I have to answer, so what he did not change his decision. Stuck to his resolution means whatever he decided decision, he stuck to it. He didn't want to change. And what he did, he asked his employees, would you mind, just giving some money as help, as charity. Charity is where you give money as help and you don't expect it back. Okay. When you give as loan or debt, you expect the other person to pay you back. But charity is something where you don't expect money back. Like we help the beggars on the road, or when you really feel sad looking at somebody, you give them something. That is also charity. You don't expect the beggars to pay you back. So that is charity, okay? So the same way, any money, even sometimes you can be kind to your friends or any person in help, neighbors or any person who is in need. You can help them without expecting it back. So here he was telling his employees, would you mind being little kind, where you can just give some money where we can help this man who is in trouble and who has so much of faith in God. So poor thing, everybody, they gave something, whatever they can. And the postmaster himself gave part of his salary. It was really very kind of him, because nobody really gives part of their salary. So he was a very kind person. He gave part of his salary, and he asked his friends, who were obliged. Obliged is just because they were friends of the postmaster. They had no choice but to, obey to what he said. And then they did this act of charity, helping the person. It was impossible for him to gather together 100 pesos. So as they were asking the employees, friends, and everybody, it was looking like a bit impossible for them to gather 100 pesos. So he could just get a little more than half of the amount. So he put the money in an envelope addressed to Lenko, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature. So now the postmaster, after collecting a little more than half of the money, he took an envelope, he wrote on top of it Lenko's address, then he wrote a letter, and in that letter what he wrote was, he just wrote God. He didn't write anything. I mean, God was not writing a reply here. He just wrote God, and he put the collected money into it and sent it to Lenko. Now here, what happened? The following Sunday, Lenko came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. Now Lenko, who was, so strong in his faith, and who believed that God is surely going to answer his prayers, the next Sunday, after a week, he comes back to the bank a little earlier, okay, than the regular time. And he comes and asks the post office, did I get any letter? And then the postman himself, who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed, looked on from his office. Now, what happened here? When Lenko came, the postman himself handed over the letter to the person. Who is this person? Lenko. And the postmaster, who was a very kind man and due to whom they could collect some money and send it to Lenko, was feeling really, really very content. Content is a satisfying feeling when you do something good. Understand, when you help somebody who is in need, you have this feeling of contentment or a satisfying feeling that you have done really something good. Okay, so this postmaster was having that feeling, and he felt, oh my God, I've done such a nice deed, and I wish that this man is going to be really happy. So he looked on from his office as he saw Lenko coming and collecting the letter. Now Lenko showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence. Now here, any person for that matter, if you have written a letter to God and then you expect a reply, probably you would freak out, or you would get super excited that, wow, I got a reply from God and God has written something to me. But here, Lenko was not at all surprised. He was so confident. He was so strong that God is surely going to reply and answer his prayer, that he came, and when the letter was handed out, he took it nicely, and he started counting the money. And once he counted the money, he became very angry. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lenko what he had requested. Now, why did he get angry? He got angry because he didn't get the required amount. And he was thinking, how can God make a mistake? Because whatever we ask God, he answers, he gives us. God is never going to deny. Deny is saying a no. Okay. So God is never going to say a no to whatever we ask. So why? What happened? And immediately Lenko went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write with much wrinkling of his brow, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp, which he licked and then affixed to the envelope with a blow of his fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. It said, God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Lenko. Oh my God. Let us see what is happening here. Okay. Now this man who was helped, okay, and then he was given money. After counting it, he saw that it was just 70 pesos. And do you remember how much he asked for? He asked for 100. I hope all of you remember that. But he got just 70 because that's what the postmaster poor thing could do by asking everybody, isn't it? So he was real angry and he couldn't believe that God didn't answer his prayer completely because God doesn't do like that. So he immediately took a paper and he again started to write on the public writing table. I hope if either of you have ever visited a bank or a post office or anywhere, you have this table, onto the wall where anybody wants to write there. There's a pen or there's a gum and all this. So that's called as a public writing table. Okay. So he started to write with much wrinkling of his brows. Wrinkling means, when you're really irritated on somebody, you sort of wrinkle the brow. If it was a physical classroom, I would have showed you, but I think you can imagine it. Let us say if you're really mad on somebody and the way you put your eyebrows, that is called wrinkling of brow. Okay, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. So when he finished writing the letter, he went to the window again, took a stamp, licked it, and he affixed to the envelope with a blow. Now he was real angry. So with a blow of his fist, I hope all of you know what a fist is. So now with that anger, he just stamped the stamp on the envelope and he put it in the mailbox. Now as soon as he put in the mailbox and went away, the postman and the postmaster were really eager. They immediately took the letter and they started to read it. And when they read it, this was what written by Lenko. God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. So now he's telling God, God, you sent me the money and out of that only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest since I need it very much. So he's saying, God, please send me rest of the money. And he's saying, see, don't send it through the mail because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. So he's saying, God, next time when you send me, please don't send me through mail because these post office employees are a bunch of crooks. What do you mean by a bunch of crooks? Bunch of crooks are people who are doing all bad things. Okay, like probably they would steal or they would, ruin by taking away something. So a person or people who are not in good context or don't have good qualities, okay, or who have most of the bad qualities which can hurt or steal are called as crooks. So he says all these post office, imagine what he's writing. He's saying all the post office employees are a bunch of crooks. Would you agree with that statement, all of you kids? No, isn't it? Because all these people are the ones who really pooled in the money and helped Lenko. And today he calls them the bunch of crooks. So here also you can see the innocence. He believes so much that God has answered his prayers and he believes that humans are not good, whereas God is the only one who is watching over him. Sometimes we forget people who come in the form of God to help us. Don't you think we have to reflect on such things? Even as kids, you pray to God, and sometimes your parents come in the form of God and answer your prayers. Most of the time, that is what happens as we are kids and as we grow up. And we forget to thank them. We forget to even have the gratitude towards our parents, whereas we start complaining for the slightest thing, isn't it? So it's a time to reflect also. How well do we acknowledge people who help us? And or how well do we misunderstand and we get into trouble? So I think today is the time for us to reflect and be thankful for every blessing that God has given us in various forms, either in the form of parents, grandparents, uncle, aunts, brother, sister, whoever is helping you in different forms. Just be thankful to each one of them. Belief in God is very, very important. But people who are always with you, who are in need of your time, don't ever, ever, ever look down on them. Be thankful to everything in your life. God bless you. And as we wind up the lesson, I would like to pose a few questions to all of you. And I'm not going to give that in a written form because I would like to check your listening skills. So here goes the questions. So the task related to today's lesson, please write down. I'll repeat every question twice. I want you to write a thank you letter to God. I want you to write a thank you letter to God. Well, most of the time we keep demanding, we keep asking God a lot, but I want you to write a thank you letter. Thank you for everything that you have asked to God. Okay? Your second question. Well, as we get to see the payment of money mode here in this lesson, we see about money transfer, that is a money order form which was used in olden days. I want you to go through this and I want you to write in contrast or comparison of the old payment methods and the new payment methods. So list out the old payment methods and the new payment methods. List out and write a contrast or a comparison of the old and new money payment or money transfer methods. Okay? And the third one, I would like you to relate an instant which involves you showing the faith in God. I want you to write an instant, any instant in your life till date, which has portrayed your faith, which has never let you down. So write an instant which portrays your faith, which proves that your belief or your faith has been answered. So these are the three tasks for you. I would like you to maintain a book and write down in this so that when the school reopens, I would love to check all these. And all these are the creative writing skills which will enhance your English literature and grammar. I would also like you to go through the new words and the meanings, list it down and try to learn the meanings, which is very important in CBSE. So make sure that you are reading all the new words, their meanings, and doing this homework. Maintain a new book and write down lesson wise. I hope all of you have understood. Thank you and God bless you.